Yo, Adam Saxton with GuineCube, and in this video, I want to go through and talk about the include and refresh option inside of Power Query. This question came up in one of our live streams, and I went through it in that live stream, but I wanted to do a standalone video on it just because it was interesting and it covered a couple different things. So enough of all this talking, you know we like to do it here in GuineCube. Let's do what? Let's head over to my machine. So I've got two example Power BI desktop files here. The first one, let's go into Power Query. We'll see I'm just grabbing data from my Azure SQL database, and then I've got this filter table. And what this is doing is just grabbing it directly from Excel. It's a local file, whereas Azure SQL database is in the internet. And so I'm going to need a gateway to refresh this. One thing you'll see here is when I right click on that table, you'll notice that include and report refresh is not selected. It means that when we actually do a full refresh of the model, that table won't be refreshed. Inside of the semantic model or the data set, the data in that table will be static at that point. So it won't change. Even if there's an update in that Excel file, it won't pick it up. Let's verify that. So right now we see that it's 2013 coming out of the Excel file. We can validate that there. That's great. I'm going to go and close this. And we'll notice that our filter value is 2013, and that's coming directly off the table. So let's go ahead and update the value in the Excel spreadsheet to 2019. And then we'll go back to our desktop file. This is still 2013, but let's go ahead and do a full refresh to pick that up. One thing you'll notice right away is that the My Filter table is not in this refresh list. That means that it's not going to get refreshed as part of that full refresh, which means that slicer value is still going to say 2013 when the refresh is done. And there we go. The second file that I've got here, and this was more aligned to what they were doing in the question they sent to the live stream. So let's go look at Power Query here. Again, I've got my filter table. Let's go into the Excel file and you'll see I've got including report refresh is disabled. And what they're actually doing is using it as a filter for the internet sales table. So if I go to advanced, you'll see that I'm pulling that scalar value and then I'm including it as part of the native query for pulling data from that. This is just an example, so don't critique my M syntax. I just stuffed it in there pretty quick just to illustrate what they were telling me they were doing. So we're actually leveraging that query inside of Power Query to get that data. So even though I've got the include and refresh disabled, that has to do with the semantic model, the data set. Because I'm referencing the My Filter query from the Power Query side inside of the internet sales query, it has to execute it in the context of the internet sales table. So the internet sales table will pull back whatever year is listed in that Excel file. So let's try that. So we can see here that we've got 2013 and the filter value is 2013. This is representative of the My Filter table from the semantic model perspective, and this is representative of the internet sales table in the semantic model. Remember, I set the value to 2019. Let's do the refresh. All right, and now we can see that the table updated to 2019, but the filter value is still 2013. And that's because for the My Filter table, I've said don't include it in the refresh. So that table is going to be static at that point. Okay, say I want to actually update that table as a one-off. How do I do that? A couple options that I've got for you. First, inside of Power BI Desktop, we can right click on this and we can say refresh data. And that will actually refresh the actual table there. Now, if we go look at the service, we can see here both are 2013, 2013. Let's go back and refresh this model in the service. So we can see the data from internet sales is 2019, but it's not for the filter because it didn't get refreshed for the full refresh. So this is where I could go to something like the XMLA endpoint. I can use something like Management Studio or any other tools to actually just refresh that individual table. So if we just go through, and if we go back, refresh to get rid of the report cache, and we'll see that the filter value is now 2019. So you can selectively update the individual table and that will still be honored, but it's the full refresh that won't pick up that table. So that's something to be aware of. But in the case of internet sales, that query still runs. So you need to be aware that that's still going to run. Just saying don't include it in the refresh doesn't work in that context because it has to reference it. Now, there was another piece of this though, and this has to do with the gateway settings in terms of how we're actually lining that up. So let's go look at the include and refresh to data set. And the question was, because we selected that include and refresh was disabled, why do I still have to set up something here for the gateway? And the answer is that because from a Power Query perspective, it's still there as a connection, right? So we've got to supply those credentials. Like I said in the example before, it's going to be referenced when we go to refresh the internet sales table, so it has to run. But even if I was just doing the base table, it's still got to know what the connection is and it still has to work. Unselecting include and refresh does not mean you can get away with not needing the gateway at that point. Still needs to be connected because that connection exists within the semantic model. So it's a data source. You got to have credentials. All right, let me know in the comments what you think. Did this make sense? Do you have other questions around this? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. As always, thank you so much for watching. Keep being awesome, and we'll see you in the next video.